And a very good evening. It is Sunday the 13th of September. It's 8 p.m. here in the UK, 3 p.m. on the East Coast, midday on the West Coast. And this is the ProSynth Network live show episode, what is this, 24? Yeah, 24. Wow. I was actually thinking about this the other day. So we did like 2 shows before we started doing them like officially under the brand. So this is actually show 26, if you include those 2. And that means that we've been doing this for 6 months. More to the point, and I don't know, this obviously differs from country to country, but we've been doing this the entirety of this kind of pandemic situation, pretty much. You know, from the point of lockdown that occurred in March. Isn't that weird? It just seems like wow. What? But if it wasn't for that, I guess we wouldn't be doing this kind of things. Anyway. Let's just say hello to our fellow presenters. Let's go over to California. Hopefully not consumed by smoke and fire over there. Cryss, how are you?
Yeah, for a while it was looking a lot like what's behind me here. Yeah, yeah, we had some pretty tough days there, but I'm not in the worst of the area, so I'm feeling bad for the people that have been hit by the fires. But yeah, things are all right here. It felt like last week was about 2.5 days, maybe.
Yeah.
It was so packed full, but yeah, doing all right here.
Good.
How are you guys?
Glad to hear it. Yeah. So, well, we don't have wildfires or anything like that. I spoke to my boss who lives in Marin County, so just north of San Francisco, and she took a picture of the skies. And if you've all seen those clips of the drone footage from San Francisco where some guys put some the Blade Runner 2049 music over, and it was just like that, and it's like, wow, that's just awful. It's really scary stuff. And I've got a friend near one of the fires. I'm trying to remember the name, begins with a B, but they live in Monrovia, which sounds like some sort of fairy tale country that you'd find in a Disney movie, but it's near you, isn't it, Cryss? Monrovia, or fairly near you?
Yeah,
it's a bit like saying I'm near to London, which is, I'm not. But, yeah,
well, yeah, and it further complicates things in that things that are near are not always quick to get to.
Quite. So yes, it's scary stuff over there, but stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll go to the safe, quiet, sleepy suburbs of Warrington, North England, and we'll go to Ben. How are you, sir?
All right, so I'm not too bad. I've been making my own dust clouds myself, trying to make my own studio furniture out of MDF.
Oh dear.
That's it's all like I've been in it all day, like sewing and thinking. I'm just like itching to death now. I've got all bits of it stuck in the pores of my skin, and if I'm like this all night, it's this. But I've succeeded in what I wanted to do. There was a cabinet guy who I was buying all my stuff off, and he couldn't ship to me anymore. So I thought, well, I need exactly the same cabinets for it to work. So I just basically ripped off his design and copied all the pieces and
there you go.
Put it together with Dowling, and it looks good.
Well, there you go. Right. That's all that matters, as long as it looks good and it does the job. Yeah, excellent stuff. Good. Right, so what do we do over the next couple of hours? Well, we just talk about music technology and other related subjects. We've got a whole bunch of subjects to go through, things that have popped up during the week, new releases and the like. We're going to try and introduce a new little feature. This is Ben's idea, so if it all goes wrong, it's his fault. But we're going to call this little feature Sample and Hold, and what we'd like to do is to engage our audience a little bit more and have a bit of fun doing so. So what we'd like you to do as a collective in the chat room is, and obviously this can only be done when you're watching the show live, not when you're watching in replay, but come up with a topic you would like us to discuss, something that maybe is close to your heart, or something maybe that you feel might be amusing or informational or whatever, but something we can all kind of get in on, and just kind of tell us in the chat room what you think might be a good topic to discuss at random. It's kind of like improv It's kind of music tech improv. It may be just not as funny as the comedy version, but we'll do that.
Yeah.
So it's called Sample and Hold, and we'll do that at some point during the show. We'll have a little chat about something. So if you want to do that, please either tag one of us in your comment in the chat room, so at ProSynth Network, or at Ben Simpson, or at Cryss Synthient. Is that? Oh, sorry, Synthient Sound, isn't it?
Yeah.
Synthient Sound. So yeah, one of those three, and you'll get our attention, and one of us, I hope, will make a note of some of these topics, and then we can maybe go through them and pick one, and we'll just pick one that we think we can make interesting, and we'll just see how it goes. It's a test, it's a trial, but we just want to get you guys involved a little bit more. So before we do that, let's go and look at some of this week's news events. So let's do this one. This happened just, I think, yesterday. So September 9th has been and gone, and everybody was, well, I say everybody, a lot of people were thinking that maybe Behringer might finally announce the release date for the RD9. Unfortunately, they didn't. But what they did do, as it says here, about 12 hours or so ago, is they released an update that says, we are aware that the RD8 needs improvement, blah, blah, blah. As for the RD9, much of the RD8 firmware is shared. And once the update is completed, we will also be able to ship the RD9. So they're clearly working on fixing firmware issues, and that's, a lot of that firmware is shared across both machines. So it would make sense, I guess, to delay production until that's all in synchronization. And so there we go. We're still waiting for the RD9, and I hope they don't keep us waiting until next September 9th for that one. But any thoughts about this? Is this good news, bad news, meh?
I think some people have said that they've had like MIDI timing issues with the 808 one. What's that? The RD8, is it?
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that they don't just want to shift it out and make a load of money on it. They want to make sure that it's right before it goes out. So they're going to iron out the MIDI timing issues with the RD8 and also fix the RD9 before that goes out. So I think that's a good move. I think that they're doing the right thing, and now we know what we've been waiting for, don't we?
Yeah, indeed. Cryss, thoughts on this, any?
Yeah. So something that Behringer had shared a while ago, like maybe beginning of the year or something, I don't remember, that I thought was kind of interesting, but it seemed to escape the attention of forums and synth news and whatnot, is that they had talked about consolidating their firmware process, and that everything was a little bit too scattered and different, and they wanted to get all the firmware kind of settled and going in the same direction. And so really would see this as being just a second announcement about that, because they had already announced it in the broader context of their synthesizers, but of course we could expect it for the drum machines too. But I think it was probably a good move, because people are wondering where the heck's the RD9. The RD8 was out quite a long time ago, and everybody's still wondering. But I think it is a good move, because they've had so many good releases recently. The only problem is that there's been some software bugs, and if you can get it right the first time, I think people are going to be, or at least get it in a really good starting place anyway. People are going to be a lot happier when that does come out.
Yeah. I mean, at least they're being honest about it, and they're just saying, look, this is why, and there's a benefit to us doing this. There's consolidation of the firmware. It just makes sense, I guess, and I'm sure that when it comes out, it'll be lovely, and everybody will be happy, and we'll all go, badgering them for something else after this. But yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I was just going to say, would either of you be interested in a 909 sound? Is that something that, I know we've all got like tons of samples of it, but would you be interested in a machine that recreates it?
Well, the 909 was mostly sample based, wasn't it? So the one thing with that is that there are so many 909 samples out there that you can pretty much get that sound, and even this thing has got some 909 samples which sound pretty okay. They're not the best, but it's good. And there are different ways of getting it. The 808 being analog, that's got a more of a character that you have to kind of nail down, and they kind of did with the RD8. I'm not going to rush out and buy this one. It's not at the top of my list, especially now since I've discovered that I can buy 909 samples on a board that goes into the RX5. So it's just it's one of those things. The Lindrum, a Lindrum clone would interest me more, because that has a lot of character, not just because of the samples used, but because of the flaws in it. That the fact that is that the hi-hat is this kind of constantly, I forget exactly what it is, but it does something weird with the hi-hat. And I think the snare drum sample, there's a tiny fraction of space at the beginning of the snare drum sample, so it just gives it that little thing.
Groove.
It's kind of a groove. It's a groove thing. So something like that would be interesting. Whereas the 909, it's not so much about the workflow; it's probably more about the sound. I might be wrong. Some people might disagree. A lot of people love the 909 sound. I don't hear many people go, "Oh yeah, but the workflow, man, is just so great." So that's my thoughts. I don't know what Cryss thinks.
Yeah. Pretty similar opinion, I guess. I just don't need hardware to do it.
Yeah.
So I tend to, I'm the same. Like, I probably could just say ditto.
Yeah.
I prefer to work on the computer in my DAW for drum stuff. So mainly having a drum machine around is just for like jamming or coming up with song ideas. But more and more lately, I'm not just sitting down with a guitar in front of an amp writing music. I'm sitting in front of the computer with a guitar or synthesizer writing music. So the hardware aspect of it is not as important to me. But I would be very tempted, as you are, Robbie, by some sort of Lindrum hardware.
Yeah.
That would probably be the one I'd hold out for. But I have to say, like, the RD9 looks great, man.
Oh yeah, it does.
It's like 80s computer.
It does.
It's got the big button thing going on, which is nice. I've just been corrected, and rightly so, by Simon, that it was just the cymbals and the hi-hats that were samples in the 999. Everything else was analog, but it has, it's not as an expressive an analog, I guess, as the 808, which has more kind of, I don't know, there's just something about it. But X101 in the chat room mentions the Casio RZ1, or if you're in the US, the RZ1, which has gaps at the beginning of the samples, and it does. And it was a funny thing. It was a little bit crappy. The outputs were quite a bit noisy on that. But I remember that was one of the first drum machines that I really kind of learnt to kind of program and get the most out of. And it also had those 4 sample buttons that you could upload your own stuff into, which was quite cool. That's one piece of vintage gear that I'm still thinking, if I find one at a good price, I'd like to get one of those back.
You know what? I've never really had a drum machine that I've really liked, but and I'm still looking, really.
Yeah.
Obviously with Machiner at the moment, which we're going to go into later, and I've got the analog rhythm, but I've also thinking about the MPC Live. I've never really gelled with any of them. I just can't find the right one.
Yeah, I think it's like a DAW. A drum machine is very much like a DAW in that there are different styles. I mean, they all pretty much do the same thing, but like the 909 and the 808 had this kind of 16-step sequencer thing about them. Things like the RZ1 and the RXs, they didn't have that step sequencer thing, so it was all about programming into memory and using a little display, or just using a traditional sequencer. Whereas the 8 and the 9 have that kind of standalone sequencer kind of feel to it. Lindrums again, different kind of thing. So it's probably about finding the one that suits your workflow, just like it is with a door, you know, people say, oh, what's the best door? And you'll get 50 different answers because everyone's different. So, yeah, let's keep looking though. I mean, I'm getting back into. I haven't had a drum machine, you know, a proper drum machine for a few years, and then, you know, I've got the Uno drum and now the RX5, and I'm having loads of fun getting back into just playing with drum machines. It's it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Behringer's RD9 update. So RD8 bug fixes that will have a knock-on effect. So they'll unify, or I guess unify the firmware somewhat. Now then, Cryss highlighted this one. We don't know what it is, and we won't know until the 17th of the month. But Strymon are teasing something new, and it's coming out well, it's being announced, I guess. I don't know whether it's going to be available, but it's being announced on September 17th at 8 p.m. Pacific. This is all we've got at the moment. This picture of somebody holding a box with a light behind them shining onto it. There's also been like a big picture of what looks like the Milky Way, so I don't know, maybe that's the name, Milky Way, galaxy, you know, some other chocolate bar derivative. So yeah, maybe it's a chocolate something or other, I don't know. Anyway, I mean, we can't really say much about this because it's just pictures, and they've not said anything else. But what's your guess? Any guesses?
Yeah, so I've been following Strymon since the beginning. In fact, I had two of the original, not Strymon timelines, but the damage control ones. I don't know if you guys ever saw those, but they're this giant green pedal that had vacuum tubes on the sides. Yeah. And so always excited with what they come out with. So a couple things that I've noticed. The form factor is like the Volante. So, which is in itself is more like a bigger version of their. Okay, this sounds silly, but a bigger version of their smaller pedals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like the Dig or the Flint, it's got that kind of shape to it, and I'm kind of wondering if they're transitioning away from the Timeline, Big Sky, Mobius type shape, which would be unfortunate because, to me, the workflow with those pedals are a lot better. You know, even having a little bit of some menu options in there. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but as far as what's going on with these teasers, I mean, typical Strymon, they're very vague. Oftentimes they'll hide a picture of the pedal, you know, have poking out of some office photo or something. But that one that shows all the stars, the first teaser is kind of interesting because I think, you know, space, you know, what could that be? And they could go down several different ways. So they have a lot of, they have the Blue Sky, Big Sky, and Flint, of course. And so are we going to some other type of reverb that's in the new format versus the Big Sky, which is kind of in the older format? Or, you know, they've been doing a lot more with amp modeling and dry pedals and stuff. So is this some sort of IR, like speaker simulator or room environment type thing? Because that their Iridium, Strymon Iridium, has been very popular. I don't know. I mean, I hope it's more on the ambient or modulation side of things because that's what I really like from Strymon.
Well, here's another clue for you. I don't know if you can see the screen that Strymon in the last 2 hours have posted a new picture, and the wording, the caption is stars ? And so you've got a number of lights there. Now, if you're more familiar with Strymon stuff than I am, I don't know if that lends you a clue, an idea, something.
Oh, wait, what did you say? Oh, it said stars?
It says stars, yes, stars ?
I'll throw out another. Oh, okay, now it's finally come up on the stream here.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I don't know, but you know, one thing that people, the Strymon pedal that people have wanted for a long time, and this hasn't been talked about as much in the synth world, but in the guitar world. So over on the gear page, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 5 years ago or something, there was some speculation on when Strymon would release a pitch shifter. And maybe it goes back further than that, I don't remember. But so what happened is there was a gear page user. So the gear page is like the biggest guitar bass forum on the internet, and there was a GearPage user that did a Photoshop mock-up of something that looks like a timeline, but was this? In fact, if you Google, Robbie, Strymon parallax,
right?
It was such a fantastic mock-up, and everybody thought it was real for quite a while, and then it came out that it was a joke. But then ever since that time, like maybe 5-6 years ago, every time Strymon puts out a teaser, everybody's like, hey, is it going to be the parallax? Because that's what, everybody wants, that super Strymon pitch shifter.
So,
and
where are we?
see, with the space and star themes, you could go any of those directions. Reverb, some sort of physical modeling, space type thing, the parallax,
Is it this thing here, this red box with...
Yeah, it should be like kind of the color of my, kind of like that.
Yeah, I've got it up on the screen now, so you probably won't see it for a little while. But yeah, it doesn't seem to have any similarities there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a totally different layout and stuff. But that parallax was something that has become part of the Strymon legend, really.
Well, it's something to look forward to. On September 17th, Facebook Live apparently is where to go. 8 p.m. Pacific time, so that's going to be, if you're in the UK, I guess you'll just have to wake up on Friday and figure out what it is, or stay up late. It's entirely up to you. I don't think I'll be doing that, but there you go. There's a little bit of speculation there for you from Strymon, so it'll be interesting to see what that is and what it does. Any thoughts on that one, Ben?
I haven't got a clue. I've suggested in the chat that it could be like some sort of supermassive hardware box, but that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Yeah. But I don't know enough about it, really, to speculate.
Fair enough. No,
What's
I mean,
interesting-
I couldn't really say anything, so...
Do you have that newest teaser again that you could put up?
I do. Just bear with me, call up.
Maybe
So
I should.
obviously, it'll take a few seconds for you to see it on the stream. But yeah, it's just like a series of you got 8 red or something orangey LEDs, and then there's an array of green ones above it, and then what looks like, I don't know whether it's a rotary underneath or a push button, foot pedal.
So
button.
it looks like it's got the I can see at least 2 foot switches on it, and the other one's probably obscured.
Yeah.
But again, keeping to that Volante sort of format, it's got the small green Volante style. I don't know if those are LEDs or the little push buttons. And then, like you said, the 8 other things are what's most curious to me. The orangey red.
Well, people are saying in the comments that it might be an arpeggiator of some sort.
Yeah.
Which possible, I suppose.
I can see that. It looks like a sequence.
There are some
thing,
amusing comments on there. I do like this. It's certainly a lot more civil than it is on a Strymon tease than it is on a Behringer one. But, there we go. So that's Strymon teasing something that we shall see on September 17th or 18th, depending if you want to wait up that long. And I seem to be using Facebook a lot today for references, but we'll do this one quickly because, again, this is pure speculation. This is the guys at Kodamo. So you might remember we quite like the Kodamo Essence FM, but I'm still waiting to be able to keep money in my bank account long enough for me to be able to afford to buy one. However, they have teased in the last few days this, which is that a 37 note keyboard, small, compact, looks very kind of metallic and square in its shape, an array of buttons and rotaries and a pitch bend and mod wheel, and what is seemingly a large screen that occupies at least 1/3 of that top panel. And they put nothing else. They just uploaded this 3D render, which is all it is. And I put a comment on there saying, "Oh, Essence FM keyboard version," because that would be nice. Because it's having a rack mount synthesizer that is so tactile is a little awkward. And so I thought, oh, that'd be nice. And they replied almost straight away saying that this and the Essence FM will have a few things in common. That they're at a very early design stage, and the plan is to keep making and improving the Essence FM while offering an alternative for keyboard aficionados. So I don't know quite what that might be, and they've not said anything else, but interesting to see that, and relieving to see that Kodamo are not here for the short term, and that they weren't just a one-hit wonder. And this would suggest that they've sold enough Essence FMs to fund their next project, which is interesting to see. Thoughts, anyone?
Yeah, didn't they mention how much they had sold pretty recently?
I don't know. Did they? They may have done.
I thought they had.
I'll have a. Let me have a
I
quick...
may be mistaken, but I thought it was like a few hundred or something, like 300.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I do keep seeing them pop up. You know, people sharing videos or photos of theirs. You know, it's yeah. I'm just having a look to see if they mentioned anything. Oh, we're about to build our 100th Essence FM.
100. Okay, yeah.
So this was in
That's
July.
What it was. I think I so there the other production number that I confused with it was their Moog posted that they have built their 3,000th Moog 1.
Right. That's impressive numbers for a keyboard of that price.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, 14th of July, we're about to build the 100th Essence FM. A new firmware will be released soon, which brings full custom micro-tunings across the whole keyboard after a request from Aphex Twin, which is nice to hear. Lossless audio rendering to USB, and MIDI clock as a modulation matrix source. So they're still working on improving it, which is always good to hear. And they've clearly got the funds to move on to a second device, which will be interesting to see what happens there. Any thoughts, anyone else?
I think it's a good move. I think that it'll open it up to a lot of people that might have not been interested in the rack. You know, there is a lot of people that just prefer the keyboard form factor, isn't there? So it'll bring a lot of people on board, and
if indeed
they still have,
that is what it is. We're not sure, but
with that large screen that you mentioned, though, it does suggest the touch screen with the algorithms and stuff. That would be great in a keyboard. That'd be interesting to see what develops from that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Good stuff. Right, well,
we're having some stream issues. They're saying the video and also audio now are freezing up. There's
okie doke. Well, yeah, it does say that our health is a little bit in the last few minutes. I'm afraid there's not a huge amount that I can do at this end without significant financial investment in hardware. Although now it's saying, oh, what happened there? Oh, that's interesting. I don't even know if we're streaming still.
Oh no.
It's kind of just like reset itself. It's completely... I have no idea. It's not even giving me... So if anybody in the chat room can hear us, I'd love to know. Any of you guys monitoring the stream?
It's just a static picture of me at the minute.
The whole thing just the stream again. Let's see if that kicks things back in. Okay, no, it's okay at the moment. But the thing is, you have to bear in mind that
there's a delay.
There is a delay. So what the chuff in hell? Right. I don't know what's going to happen if I do this, but let's try. It should come back up.
I've come back to life.
Yeah. Well, look. this is just bizarre because I cannot.
The Sasquatch says it's working just with occasional pauses.
Well, my YouTube studio screen is just gone completely blank, and it's not even right. Okay, let me. I'm going to try something else. Apologies to everyone if you can still hear us. Something's gone a little bit awry here, and I'm just trying to get everything back, because if I can't see what's going on, I don't even know that stuff is working. According to that, it's working, but are you going to give me... This is really annoying. View live, right, so I'm in the control. Here comes the control room.
Well, they seem to be able to hear us now, so maybe we should just continue
I think we... Okay, right. I think we... I'm certainly back, so if they can still... people say we're still broadcasting. Okay, right, that's good. It's just like... Basically, it's like driving a car with your eyes closed, because I had no stream information from anything saying that... I was just literally flying blind, and it is just like driving with the lights off, because I wasn't sure what was going on. But hopefully, it does say that the stream health is slightly iffy. I'm hoping that we can get through that, and let's just carry on and hope for the best. That's all we can do. Right, okay, so that was Kodamo and their new project, which is nameless and speckless at the moment. Let's throw something in here, something a little bit lighthearted. Ben sent this through to our little private messenger group the other day. This is fun. I had to laugh. So this is a picture that's been posted, I believe, on Instagram. From somebody called Lindsay from the Bailiff. Home office, creative space, studio, pretty much done. and that was it. A cheap aluminium chair, a little corner desk, and a laptop. It doesn't even seem to be any power leads or anything like that. If only...
Sign of the times.
Isn't it? Yeah. If only all of our creative spaces stroke studios were pretty much done like that. I just thought that was rather amusing. Thought I'd throw that one in there. Whoever Lindsay from the Bailiff is... How cute. Anyway, we'll move on. So what have we got next? Let's talk about this because this has been creating some waves, shall we say. This is the Arturia KeyStep37, which is an evolved keystep with 37 keys, intuitive sequence.
I thought you're gonna make a play on words there and talk about Kaleidoscopes next, since you said this is gonna make some waves.
See, I'm making puns and I don't even know it. Yes, missed the chance there. We'll come to that in just a moment. But yeah, Arturia's KeyStep37, which is just a new variation, but it has these extra little controls. Instant chord generation, creative real-time MIDI controls, etc., etc. It's got the little... I don't like this. I've only just noticed that, actually. It's got the touch, pitch bend, and mod.
Oh, yeah.
Really don't like... I mean, if they're anything like the ones on the Roland Boutiques... horrible things. Yeah. But €169, which is immensely affordable, I would guess, for most people. And everybody likes the keysteps. They are supposedly, some of the most popular controls out there, I guess because it covers MIDI and sync and CV and is USB powered or can be mains powered if you want it to be, and just has lots of, it fits into any kind of studio. And the more they release these with these little extra bits on, the more I'm slightly tempted to just pick one up just for, fun, really. But your thoughts, gents? Anybody? Ben, have you got a desire for one of these?
Yeah, it's the only thing that puts me off. Is it's designed really to be like a grab it and use it kind of thing. So it's got the mini keys, but I'm not a fan of mini keys. So I was thinking about the is it the Beat Step that hasn't got any keys on it at all? But I watched Luke Pop's demo of this before, and it's amazing. If you haven't seen it, go and have a look at it.
Yeah.
And and like with so many of his reviews, you end up instantly wanting the thing that he's reviewing. He's so good at it. But he does this tune, and it's got an arpeggiator and like a low synth sound. He's got the CVs going out to some modular gear and this like little kind of polyrhythmic arpeggio going, and it's just amazing. And yeah, if I could work it like that and I got my hands on one, I would use it a lot, I think. But I just have to live with those mini keys. But it does seem like a big improvement. Some of these, they've got like a new row of knobs on it, haven't they, that can be assigned to different things. And there's one of the features is like a chord feature, and it plays it a bit like a trill, you know. It's a really nice effect, and I'd be definitely interested in the new one. I think I'd have to put me hatred for mini keys aside and get on with it, because it seems like a very useful piece of kit. Definitely.
Cryss, what do you think?
Yeah, so I've got the original one, and it's it's a 32 key, and well, to be honest, like I don't think I'm going to go for the new one, because I just don't have, other than the extra 5 keys, I wouldn't use the features that it has. And I think for what it does and the size, it's a great little keyboard. As far as mini keys goes, it's, you know, or at least what I've tried, it's definitely one of the more playable mini key controllers. So I use it with my Eurorack, or sometimes I use it for soft synthesizers. The arpeggiator and stuff is handy, so sometimes like I've hooked it into other synthesizers that don't have arpeggiators. Like, well, I mean, there's hardly any, but my Juno 106 doesn't have an arpeggiator, and you've used it with that. But I got mine brand new for like $90, and so like spending more than twice for 5 extra keys, and watching some of the videos of what people have done with the new features, it is pretty awesome. It just doesn't fit my workflow, but I think if I had a little more of that kind of work style and did that type of music, it would definitely be worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm always I like my KeyStep. Obviously, they're one of the most popular controllers, and so anything that they do that expands the line, I think, is a good thing for everybody.
Yeah.
One of the features on it was one of the the pattern modes for the arpeggio was like this like walking thing, and I can't remember what it was called now, but it randomly generates a pattern based on the notes that you're holding, and in the video that I was watching, it was really good. It was really effective the way it did it, but there was no way of storing. So if that bit of magic happened, there's no way of storing that particular section of randomness. It's just lost forever, which I think is a bit of a shame. But it definitely produced some interesting results. That pattern mode.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, it's a nice little, it's a nice looking bit of kit, and I think it will get a lot of fans. I've never used one, but I can imagine that if I had a whole bunch of like Eurorack and MIDI stuff as well, that this is something that you can, it's kind of, it suits everything. It covers all bases, but I just don't like. I mean, I say, in general, I don't like touch strips for my pitch and modulation, because the thing I found with the Roland Boutiques, when I had a JU08 or whatever, JP08, sorry, was that you could never find, every time you went for the center to then go up or down, every time you touched it, it would never not do anything. It would always go up or down, and I haven't even moved my finger. I'm just putting my finger on it in anticipation of moving it. So there should really kind of be a dead zone in the middle there, so that you can put your finger on and not affect the sound, and then just go up or down and up and down. So maybe they've implemented it differently. I don't know, but
I know even if they have implemented something like that, I agree that the touch strip controllers are just not that good.
No.
Either on the boutiques, at least the boutique gives you some visual feedback where the KeyStep doesn't. The ones that actually surprised me, so for where I'm sitting, like if I were just turned a little bit, is where my computer normally is. I've got a great controller here, but I don't like firing this whole thing up just to play a soft synth. And so on my desk, the KeyStep or the X key work really well, and I use one of those to play. The X key has buttons. I don't know if they're like some sort of silicone or rubberized something. And when I first was looking into it, I thought, man, that looks like a terrible way to control vibrato or to your pitch bends. But I have to say that I've gotten along with it really well, and actually like the touch vibrato quite a bit. They implemented it really well. It's sensitive in just the right way. So as you're pressing into a note, you have the right amount of expression to it. And when I get out the KeyStep, it plays. I like the way it plays a little better than the X key. But then again, the problem is like you don't have such a control. And one of the problems is if you have the mod up, you don't realize it. And then if you try to pull the mod all the way out, one of the problems that I have is that with this, I don't know if it's too bright here. It might be a little bit too bright, but you think you should be just pushing it down here to the line, but I'm often trying to figure out like how to get my finger lower against the edge to turn the modulation actually all the way off.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I mean, the features that it has, the arpeggiator and stuff I like a lot. I can use the CV outputs for Eurorack or MIDI stuff, USB. The one other feature that's better on the new one is that this has I think that's micro USB, and I don't really care for those ports. I'm always worried I'm going to break them.
Yeah.
But the new one has a USB-B port, which is a lot more robust.
Well, they're saying that my Keylab has a USB port on it, and they were notoriously awful. The movement was rubbish. So I don't know whether it was just a bad type of connector that they chose to use, but it wiggles so much. And I think it was it Woody from Woody's Piano Shack had the same thing, and he just basically said, screw this, I'm going to replace it. And he did a video of him just taking this out and replacing it with a higher quality one. But it's one of a number of issues I've had with that. Listen, guys, I'm conscious of some of the comments in the chat room about the quality, and also the fact that we've got this stream health warning that doesn't seem to want to go away. So what I'm going to propose is that I just stop the stream, tweak a couple of settings, and start it again almost straight away. So if that's okay with everyone, guys and girls, and those that don't define as either, in the chat room, if you just bear with us like a minute or two, I'm just going to see if I can improve it now, and then I'm going to spend some time trying to investigate why this is still going on. So we will be making stream health. It says it's good, which is better than poor. I just need to make sure that everything... Let me just tweak one more thing, and then we'll be good to go. Sorry about the delay in getting back, but unfortunately we were kind of having to rejig everything, and fingers crossed we should end up with something that looks a little bit smoother. Yes, it's certainly looking a bit smoother at my end. So we'll go with that. Apologies if things might looks slightly out of shape because I've had to rescale a lot of things. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, there we go. Right, Cryss has now decided to leave us. No, he's back in the room. I might tweak things ever so slightly in between bits and bobs, just to you might notice things moving around. We're so professional here. Anyway,
Yes.
Hopefully that's looking and sounding a lot better, and we shall move onwards. Lots of people saying much better, so that's really good to see. Fingers crossed we can keep it that way. Brilliant. Right. So we before the commercial break.
Breakdown.
Full commercial breakdown. We were talking about the Arturia KeyStep37, which has been announced this week and is available now for €169. Probably something similar in the US in terms of dollars. Let's crack on. Don't forget, guys and girls and others in the chat room, that if you want to suggest a topic, a random music technology related topic for us to discuss at some point between now and the end of the show, around 10ish, please do so in the chat room. Use the @ProSynth Network or @Ben Simpson or @Synthient Sound names so that we can see what these topics are, and we'll flick through. Guys, have you noticed any, made a note of any that have been coming through?
I think, well, I've got a couple.
Okay.
I'm still holding out.
Good. Well, just keep those in mind. I mean, I will try and scroll through, and we'll go through, and we'll pick some, one, maybe two, depending on what they are out. So yeah, please do that in the chat room if you want us to randomly discuss without any preparation whatsoever, because we put so much preparation and pre-planning into this show. So you probably won't notice the difference. But yeah, do let us know if there's anything that's grinding your gears or you want us to discuss. So yes, Get 70 Music says, at these difficult times, let's discuss music written in 13/8. Oh, very good. Let's move on to another topic. Let's do another piece of hardware. This one a little bit further east in Europe. We go to Germany now from France, and we go to Native Instruments, who have just announced a Machina Plus, which is a standalone production and performance instrument. The workflow, the sounds, and no computer necessary. So it's essentially a Machina module with the all the pads and the rotaries and everything that you would expect on there, but slightly higher build quality, I'm told, in terms of the materials used. But it's completely standalone, and the irony is not lost on me, and maybe I'll mention that a little bit later. But it contains 9 instruments, 35 effects, and thousands of sounds on board. So according to the blurb on the website, as well as its classic Groovebox workflow, Machina Plus includes Machina Plus Selection, a dedicated package of 9 synths and sampled instruments, 35 effects and 7 expansions, including 2 of your own choosing, that work seamlessly in standalone mode. It contains things like Massive, FM8, Monarch, Prism, the Machina Factory Selection, Roam or Raum, and Faces, and I mean, it's just basically a standalone unit. I mean, Akai clearly have hit a nerve, I would have said, with their recent efforts coming back with the MPCs, because we went from this kind of tradition of standalone MPC music production centres that were massively influential in R&B and hip-hop over many, many years. And then Akai kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit and kind of went down the dedicated controller route rather than the having the stuff built in. And Native Instruments jumped into that vacuum and filled it very, very well with Machina, which garnered a huge following and a huge amount of respect from the community, and seemed to take over. But in recent years, Akai have come back with MPC Live, and all the other kind of variations of these new standalone MPCs with a nice big screen running embedded software and operating systems, and able to do all sorts of wonderful things with, especially the new ones that have MIDI, and I believe they also have CV connectivity as well. So they're really thinking about the people that might be using this stuff. And now Native Instruments have come up with Machina Plus, which is kind of like that. So what's everybody's thoughts on this one?
I've done quite a bit of video watching and reading up on this because it's something that does kind of interest me. I've tried Machine. I think it was the Mark II, and it didn't really gel with me again. So I got rid of that after about a month, and I didn't like the way that the software was like a program within the DAW. It just didn't seem right. It was like you were using another DAW within your DAW, and I didn't like it at all, the way it worked. But making it standalone, which from what I can gather feels exactly the same as if you're using the Mark III, but you can literally take it off with you, apart from the fact that it's not battery powered. That kind of appeals to me a little bit more. And also it takes a bit of strain off your computer as well. If you've got a lot of things running, then this is going to handle all that if you do use it in the computer environment. But from what I've picked up on it, you can work at, say, like you could be sat on the couch, coming up with a tune, using all these like virtual instruments, samples, effects, and then connect it back up to your laptop, and it works just like the Machine Mark III controller does. It then becomes a controller for the software, and you can transfer everything across. So I do like that. There's some really good things about it. There's some quirks as well I've discovered. It's quite difficult accessing things that you've saved onto memory card, because it's got a memory card slot in it.
Yeah.
And it is compatible with up to 1 terabyte memory cards.
Okay.
So that's quite a lot of storage there, and you can also connect like external drives up to the USBs that's on it as well. So there's plenty of storage opportunity. It's got Wi-Fi built in as well, which I think is great. That's great for downloading sample packs or and performing system updates as well. So I think they've got it. They've got it right to a certain extent. One of the criticisms that I did hear about it is that Akai with the MPCs, they went for the touchscreen approach. And so if you're doing any fine editing, you just instinctively go for the screen and stretch a note out or fine tune some automation. With the Machina Plus, it's all got to be done with the knobs. So it gets a little bit finicky with fine details.
Yeah.
There is no you would find yourself reaching for the mouse, so you could do that, but obviously there's all you've got are the controls on the front. Yeah. That's it.
One thing that is missing though is compared to its competitor, which obviously is the new MPCs, is the connectivity at the back is lacking any form of CV or sync connection. It's just MIDI or USB.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's slightly a dropped ball. That given that the competition are now firmly, aiming at something that everybody can use, whether you're using MIDI, USB, CV gate, sync connections, 3.5mm jack, whatever. The new MPCs, as far as I understand, most of them, if not all of them, feature a CV gate connection, and I think that's a big miss. What do you think, Cryss?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I mean, without those few extra clock or CV functions, it might miss a lot of people. This completely misses me, but that's not my workflow. But I could imagine like a lot of the people that have a lot of daisy-chained boxes together that are making music in hardware like that, groove boxes and whatnot, to have some of those features to integrate into a Euro rack or with their other boxes. Thinking the way like Inky makes music, or what's that other one? State Azure.
Yep.
On YouTube, like just a lot of things working together. I was kind of surprised to see that wasn't on the back of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
definitely.
I mean they're not. I would be the one that would just use like the USB or whatever, because I'd be using it with a computer. But I think for the people that would actually buy it, though, that maybe that's missing from it.
Yeah, I mean, to perfectly honest, I mean, this doesn't really appeal to me. It's not my thing, not my workflow. And B, I have no CV gate stuff apart from the MS-101, which also has regular MIDI, and that's where I'm at. I'm all about regular MIDI. So yeah, it's no big deal for me. So if it wouldn't make odds either way. However, I just think, given the amount of people that have been raving that MPCs now have CV gates, that this would have been something that they would have done. It
seems a little bit unclear as well what you're actually getting with it. I found that there's some kind of version of contact in there, but it's just like a select amount of highlighted sounds.
It's not going to be the full thing, is it?
No, and it's only compatible with certain libraries. It's not compatible with all the Native Instruments stuff that you can download, which I think that's going to be confusing to some people. It's like, which ones? I get that with like Roland Cloud. It's like, which bits are applicable to me here? I'm not sure, but it seems even worse in that ecosystem. It's like you're starting off on the wrong foot. It should just be compatible with everything, and like you say, the CV thing, that's kind of a bit unforgivable, really, at this moment in time.
I mean, maybe it will be in future, as as they do the new versions of these libraries, that they'll be NKS stroke Machine Plus, whatever. They'll make them compatible, because I would say the vast majority of the libraries that will work in this thing come from Native Instruments themselves. So I don't know. It's interesting.
I mean, there is a possibility, I suppose. I believe it'll work with Native Instruments audio interfaces.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is technically possible or not, because I'm just rattling one off here, but could they, with a firmware update, use the inputs and outputs of the audio interface to do the work of the CV ports?
Yeah.
Is that possible? That would be good.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could well be. Interesting stuff. So that's Machina Plus from Native Instruments. I'm trying to see what the price is, but it's gone. It's about 1,000 and something, isn't it? 10.
Yeah, it's a bit expensive, I think.
Yeah,
as well.
But you're getting a standalone music production tool with lots of cool stuff on it. So and nice, pretty lighting up pads.
Yeah, I love the build quality.
I think the build
awesome.
quality looks it's typical German Simon engineering. Very good. Sorry, Ben, you've
got a slight space grey finish to it, as if it's meant to go with a MacBook.
Indeed, yeah. Which are available.
Blade Runner says $1,400.
Oh, there you go, 14. Yeah, so that would be about 1,100, I suppose, euro, pounds, whatever. Yes, so there you go, Machine Plus. I think available now or very soon. Pre-order now. So there we go, pre-order. Let's have a look at the price. Get the accurate price. The funny thing is, we talked there about the lack of CV connections, and in the picture on the website at the back, behind this guy that's he's got a turntable, he's got a machiner, and then behind him is a whole bunch of Eurorack. So I guess there you go. Right, it's just 9:10. Apologies to everyone for the delays and problems we've been having, but hopefully, now see, I'm saying hopefully because I'm driving again slightly blind. My YouTube kind of studio page has us frozen an image, but I've not seen anybody talking about us freezing. So if people in the chat room can just confirm that aside from the audio, that our video is smooth and not stuttery, is actually coming through, that would just reassure me just a little bit, because right now I'm just seeing a static image with me. It looks like I'm about to pick my nose, which I can assure you I didn't. So let's see, what should we have? It's all working fine, says Sasquatch. Brilliant, excellent, glad to hear it. I'm slightly relieved. So let's see, what have we got left? We've got those and those and those and that. Let's do this one, and then shall we, after this next topic, we'll do our sample and hold feature. So let's go. Oh, lovely, thanks Inky, thank you Native, thank you JP Page 2, best stream of the day so far. That's good. I can't wait to watch it back. So we'll do our sample and hold feature. Just one last reminder to everyone that's watching. If you have something you would like us to discuss tonight, a subject that's dear to your heart, maybe grinds your gears, or something you'd like our opinion on, we haven't prepared obviously for this, so just throw them into the chat room. Make sure that you at us, so at ProSynth Network or at Ben Simpson or at Synthient Sound, just so we can see it as it comes through. We've had a few. We'll go through them and we'll pick one or two maybe, and we'll just discuss those as random topics that interest you.
Because if there's anything that we know, it's that we have a lot of opinion. Absolutely.
Right, so last week we spoke about this Newfangled audio plugin, Pendulate, which was this kind of chaotic oscillator based soft synth, and we posited that it was probably going to be followed by a paid for, bigger, better type of thing, and so it was to be. It's called Generate, and it's a marquee polysynth with 5 revolutionary chaotic oscillator types by Newfangled Audio. It looks similar to Pendulate, but obviously Pendulate was a monophonic instrument. This is polyphonic. Features a novel chaotic oscillator with 5 types: double pendulum, vortex, pulsar, discharge and turbine. Wavefold is based on the Buchla 259, low pass gate based on the Buchla 292. Lots of things like MPE support. You can choose from different color schemes. Comes with over 450 presets and on-screen animations. All mod sources have multiple outputs generated as at once, like a modular synth, etc., etc. Loads of effects. There's a video. Let's see. Do you know, I'm not going to play that because I'm just conscious of sucking bandwidth out of this. But Cryss, I believe you've bought this. Your early thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I like it. So the intro price is $99, which makes a lot more sense to me than the $149 it's supposed to be regularly.
Yeah.
But I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've been playing it in the evenings and making some patches for it. Kind of thinking about making a sound bank for it. Mm-hmm. Not sure yet. So, of course, compared to Pendulate, it's got more features. It's polyphonic. There's more modulation sources. Some of the good and the bad. So let me start with the bad first. It is very high for CPU usage. I mean, and I think some of it, I'm not super techie into computer hardware, but I think it's pushing the graphics card, because I hear the fan spin up.
Right.
And I'm watching my Logic meter on it, and it's going pretty high. I mean, one instance of it in an empty Logic session on a new MacBook is, starting at probably 40%. Mm-hmm. So I don't. That's not enough to really push the fans on, but I think it may be something with the external GPU.
Yeah.
And not sure what's going on there.
It's quite a visual thing, isn't it? It's quite
Yeah,
it's got lots of pretty animations. So
it does, and I really like that. Actually, you can turn that stuff off, and there are 3 different what do you call it? GUI colors to it. The other thing that's a little bit weird. So the whole idea, I think, behind it is it's more like an East Coast synthesizer that's made. I'm sorry, a West Coast synthesizer that's made for East Coast synthesis. Okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very much like kind of along the ideas of Buchla and the way that it does things. In fact, some of the modules in it are based off of Buchla modules, but it's laid out in a way that I think East Coast typers will easily understand. And so that's one of the things that I've liked about it, in addition to the interesting sounds. With the modulation sources, I keep wanting, I wish it was a little bit more modular, because there is a lot of modulation sources for it, but there are some things I want to adjust, that I want to modulate or modulate other modulations in it, and I can't do that. One of the simple things, like I said, I haven't spent a whole lot of time playing with it, but you can't modulate the pitch on it other than the pitch bend. So some things like that, you can't do vibrato on it.
Right.
And then maybe I just haven't, untucked all the little goodies yet, but it does have a generous amount of LFOs and envelopes for it, so you can create some really interesting sounds. The effects are pretty decent on it. I just like it's something different. It's not for everybody. I said this last week about Pendulate. This is not what you're going to go to for your classic, sequential or Moog sounds or anything like that. It's you're not going to use it in your new, funk or disco album or whatever. It is more unusual textured tones, and if you're making more ambient or cinematic sounds, or even maybe into some stuff that's a little more aggressive, maybe even to some of whatever the genre is around, like dubstep and stuff like that. This could probably work for that. But I'm finding some really nice textured, very organic tones out of it.
Ben, have you dabbled with this at all, or have you just looked?
I've watched the videos and read up on it. I was quite impressed with it, really. I think for a soundtracky kind of tool, it'd be really useful. It has got a really distinctive and aggressive, gnarly kind of tone, and I like that. I think, obviously, like Cryss says, it's not going to be, you're not going to have multiple instances of it forming the basis of your track, let alone the CPU usage. It wouldn't make any sense, like the sound. But as a feature or a layer in something, it's got these like evolving soundscapes, and it's really interesting. I love the way you can modulate everything as well. It's got like a drag and drop kind of modulation routing thing, and that's really good. And the waveforms animated in the backs of the controls that's an interesting touch as well. But maybe they're going to have to reduce that slightly if it is that heavy on CPU.
Yeah.
But very interesting, and I think at $99 or whatever it is, it's a must-have, really. I think very, very, very useful in the kind of thing I do.
Cool. I'm going to be completely honest. I never got around to even watching a video on this, so I cannot and won't comment because I have no opinion of this as yet. Other than it's nice to see something that is doing something different.
Yeah.
That's
it
always
is
nice.
different. It's definitely different.
Yeah. So my apologies for that, but I was kind of otherwise engaged and just never got round to doing it. So my bad. But yeah, it certainly seems like it's worth exploring at that price. Get it now, otherwise it's going to go up by another $50. So that's the Generate Chaotic Oscillator Polysynth from Newfangled. By Newfangled Audio through Eventide. I'm not quite sure what the deal is there, but yeah, and there's cross grade options as well. So you don't go ahead.
Dan Gillespie from Newfangled Audio. Used to be an engineer for Eventide.
Oh, I see. So there's the connection. Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they're doing some sort of distribution, but it is being sold in other websites too, like Audio Deluxe and things like that.
Okay, yeah, they're doing it's an intro special at $99. Cross grades from Elevate begin at $69. So if you have Elevate, you can get this at a rather nice little price. So here you go. That's Eventide Generate. So let's do this thing, shall we? So guys, have you been?
But it's a little bit worrying because it seems as though our chat room is full of drunken people.
I know, and it's not, and it's not me. I'm still on the wine wagon at the moment. So
the good thing about COVID is that because we're live streaming, they won't, when they throw their shoes or beer bottles and stuff, it won't hit us.
Yeah, this is true.
I say is I just see a head go right by the window. I think my wife's in the backyard, but I just got worried there for a second.
So unfortunately, because I had all these problems with my dashboard here. I've lost the chat beyond, like the first sort of 30 odd minutes here. Right. So I'm just looking through the list here.
So here's the main question that got asked by Andrew Brooks. Said it several different ways. What's the worst piece of gear you ever bought?
All right.
And the Sasquatch variation is what's the worst piece of gear I ever bought and still use?
Fair enough. Well, let's do that.
Maybe we'll take both of those.
Let's do that one then. Go on then. So, Ben Simpson, what is the worst piece of gear that you've bought, and is it something you still use? If not, what is the worst piece of gear that you've bought that is something you still use?
Well, yeah, it's a strange one, that, because it is a such thing as a bad piece of gear, because something's always got something for somebody, hasn't it? I've got that little micro preset Korg.
Oh yeah,
thing.
The OMD machine.
Yeah, and I love that. It's actually pretty naff. It only does a few sounds, and it doesn't. It I don't know. There's just something about it that sounds great.
Have you bought anything that you've thought, God, why did I buy this? And have either just binned it, sold it, or just stuck it at the back of the studio?
I was a little bit. Chris isn't going to like this. I was a little bit disappointed with the System 8 when I first bought that, and it never really clicked with me. I wouldn't say it was awful, but it just wasn't for me. The System 8.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, because I know Chris likes that.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
So micro preset, the worst bit of gear you've bought that you still use, and the System 8, just that standard worst bit of gear, yeah?
I bought the System 8. I used it in my studio for a bit. I decided that I wanted to use it live instead. And it didn't really work out for me live as well, so I got rid of it after about 3 months or something. But I wish I hadn't, because I've heard it on in videos and stuff, and it does sound pretty good. I think it was just me.
Yeah, it's picnic, isn't it? Problem in chair, not in computer.
Yeah.
Chris, so how about you, mate? What's the worst bit of gear you've ever bought, and do you still use it?
So yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of something. Just looking around at my gear, something. There's not been anything like synthesizer-wise that's been abruptly horrible. I think in other music gear like pedals, I've had a few bad amps that I quickly turned around. Hey, Wagyu. Sorry, buddy. Kick that guy out of the chat.
Yeah, well, can we do that? Is that a thing? Can we?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, hang on a minute.
What?
Speaking of the cold one,
yeah.
I missed out on one by seconds. Oh,
Was that?
What was that?
Was that you or me? That might have been me, actually. Sorry about that, callers.
Yeah, who was it? I think it was Bax Music or something that had one on sale on a Black Friday, and it was like, I think it was £4,500. And by the time I'd rejigged my finances and gone back in there, it had gone. So if I was a little bit quicker, I'd have a Moog one now as well.
Yeah.
I ended up buying like a couple of little bits instead of one big purchase.
Yeah.
Probably what I could say about it, since I had it, I was one of the first people to have one, along with Brian Getsemani Music. We both have very low serial number Moog ones. It's the most incredible synthesizer I've ever owned, one of the greatest pieces of gear I've ever owned. I will say it's been one of the most frustrating as well because of the early bugs and some things that just need to be taken care of. But slowly it's getting to where it needs to be. So I would say, yeah, I've had my share of frustrations, but even through that, those times, just knowing that they were working on the firmware and getting it better, and then just the raw tone of it. I mean, the factory presets are absolutely awful. In fact, I still have so I had done really early on some videos just playing the presets, just very simply, just some chords so you hear what it sounds like. And people come in and go, well, this is absolutely, terrible sounding, and this is rubbish. So I'm like, yeah, but these presets wouldn't have never sold the Moog 1. What sold the Moog 1 was Amos Gaines, dialing up in a knit patch and going, well, if we just start doing a little of this and a little of that, then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this is an incredible sounding synthesizer. But sadly, most of the online examples are not very good from it. Effects-wise, though, man, I've had probably, I don't even know how many pedals I've had. I for many years, I got gear. So I worked as a musician, but then I got gear money by repairing and buying and selling gear. And glad that I just don't have to do that anymore. I'm so sick of it. I repair stuff when I really want something that's broken and I can get it cheap. But so I've had maybe something like, I'm making a guess, like 700 pedals or something over the years. I don't have that many now. I have like maybe 40 or 50, but
still a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's.
I'd be like my wife is with keyboards, but they all look the same. They just do the same thing, don't they?
Yeah.
So there was so many different like effects and pedals and stuff that were just like, there would be some really good sounding ones, and then there would be one thing about it that would just drive you freaking nuts. Like chorus pedals for a long time. Like I love the original CE one and the Dimension C, and I've had some newer stuff that sounds awesome. And but you'd get most chorus pedals, and when I'm playing live, I want to turn on a chorus pedal and have chorus come on and not change the gain staging of my rig. I don't want it to drop in volume or boost in volume. But for some reason, especially on the vintage 80s chorus pedals, you turn them on and they boost your signal, or even like a CE2 will boost your mid-range also. And so you've got your tone dialed in, and you hit the chorus pedal because you want to be like a softer part of the song and have be nice sounding, and all of a sudden it boosts your signal up by 3 or 5 decibels, and you're like, well, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
It's like, that's one feature. Why can't people gain stage things correctly? And in fact, again, one of my favorite synthesizers ever, one of the most toneful that I just amazing, is the Matriarch. Absolutely fantastic sounding. The analog delay on it is gorgeous, but the mix knob, you turn it, so you start at your level all the way down, and your synthesizer's at a certain dB. You turn that mix towards center, and they have not designed the circuit well. It drops your signal, your signal down when you get towards 50% mix. And there's no reason that it needs to do that. They could have designed the analog mixing in a better way, but how does that get by quality control? And so I would say of like synthesizers and guitars, I've had a few bad guitars too, but not for the show. There's nothing that I have right now that's horribly awful. I just would sell it.
Yeah. So
what about you, Robbie?
Well, I've been looking around and trying to think. There's nothing that I've bought that's truly awful that I've just kind of either binned or sold and got rid of. Not that I can remember. I remember I bought. Do you remember Roland did this thing called the PMA5, which was like an Apple Newton? It was like it was a sound canvas module with a touchscreen, but it was the resistive touchscreen, so you had to use a stylus, and the stylus came and it slotted in, and it came in a lovely leather wallet, and it had MIDI in and out ports, and it was just basically a Roland arranger in this thing. And I remember seeing Vince Clarke use one live on stage. He was doing stuff with it, and I thought, that's really cool. It's just like, this was in the days before we had iPads and stuff, and I bought that and got it, and I was so unimpressed with it that it probably just sat around for 6 months, and then I just sold it with a bunch of other things to raise some money. But it was this. I didn't want to part with it because it was such a unique thing, and I thought, one day that actually could be worth something. But in terms of gear the worst things that I bought, but I've kind of made use of them. The first one, and I have to be really careful that I don't pull any cables out. So isn't that just so?
You were back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So isn't that just typical? I won't bring it up because it'll mess it up again. So it's a propeller head balance, which I was a massive propeller head fan for a very, very long time, and they brought out this this audio interface that was designed to work with propeller head Reason, which was great. And we thought, oh wow, integration with things, because Reason at the time had just launched this thing called what was it called? Clip control or something. So basically, if you activated ClipSafe, that's it, ClipSafe. So if you activated ClipSafe, what Reason would do is it would record what you've set your audio to be at, so all the settings, and then it would record a second time, like invisibly, at a few dB lower, so that if you got it too hot and it started to distort and stuff, then you could just swap it to the ClipSafe version and it would be a few dB less. And that's something that I've certainly in recent months have thought, that would be really great if I could use that properly. But in podcast recording, because you're kind of at the mercy of your subject's quality and their studio environment, and you all of a sudden realise that not everybody has got a very quiet room or a really good microphone, because they might not do vocals and stuff. So having the ability to have like a second thing. Anyway, so Propellerhead brought this thing out, and I thought, great, this is going to integrate with my DAW, it's going to be fantastic. And I got it, and I was instantly disappointed, because you've got 4 pairs of inputs. You've got there's a couple of XLR inputs, and then you've got 3 pairs of 1/4-inch jack inputs, and a pair of 1/4-inch jack outputs, and the USB socket. You've got phantom power and pads on there as well for your microphone and instrument inputs. You've got separate balance controls for your inputs, but you can only select 1 pair of inputs at a time, which was the instant dislike. Secondly, the rubber coating that they use is that rubber coating that eventually gets a little bit tacky, and then all of a sudden all the dust in the studio starts to settle on it, and you can't get rid of it. And
Waldorf.
Yeah, it's just horrible. I had this with a camera lens once, and it just went all bleh. And so now it's got this permanent sheen of dust on it that makes it look like it's 100 years old. But it still has a use, as I've shown. This is what I used a couple of audio interfaces, and this is the one that the mixing desk goes into and the one that goes to the stream. So it's just kind of taking the load in that respect. And it's got nice big knobs.
Oh, well.
Got a nice big, volume knob and a separate headphone level knob. But it's horrible. I hate looking at it. It reminds me of just how high my hopes were and how low they were smashed down to. It was just one of those things. And the other thing is very similar. I don't know if you can see it. Oops. I'll just run over my my headphone cable. We were talking about this in the pre-show about Beyer Dynamic headphones, how brilliant they are and how wonderfully long the cables are, but they get everywhere. So just down there is an Event Easy Bus. Now, I don't know how many people remember Event as a company that used to produce monitors and so on and so forth, and they were quite well thought of back in the day. And I remember reading Sound on Sound one day, or such related magazines, and there was this advert, half-page advert for the Event Easy Bus, revolutionary new mixer that was a standalone audio mixer with digital compression and other bits on there. It was a control surface for software synthesizers and DAWs. And it was also an audio interface, a USB audio interface, all in one unit. And I was like, that's it. That's all my problems solved. At the time, I had one of these little MIDI Man mini mixer things. It's run out of ports. This has got it's got a ridiculous number of inputs. It's 8 channels. It's ADAT. It's got MIDI sockets built in. 3 sets of MIDI sockets, 3 sets of MIDI channels, 1 over USB and 2 on regular 5-pin DINs. You got digital inputs, digital outputs, both SPDIF and optical ADAT. It had templates for Cubase and Ableton and all of these, current, because this was early 2000s. All the current DAWs, and it also had templates for some of the native instruments like Pro 53 and was it the B3 organ that they did? Something like that. And so you could use the faders as B4, yeah. So you could use the faders as the drawbars as well. And it was just like, wow, this is all these things all rolled into this one brilliant package. The one big problem was that it was USB 1. So because it was early 2000s, USB 2 was about 6 months to a year away. And so when it came to recording digital audio, it was awful. The latency was terrible, and the drivers were poorly updated, and the templates for the things weren't that detailed, so you had to kind of like manually assign all the controls. And within 6 months, Event had dropped the thing. They just stopped developing it. They stopped doing drivers. They stopped doing updates, and that was it. And then within the year, it was like it had never existed. Wow. And I was really gutted because they'd used USB 1, which was the bad thing. There's no way you could get around that. However, it's still in use today, and the only thing that's gone wrong with it is channel 3 is a little bit noisy, and I need to figure out why it's doing that. But because you can assign any physical input to any channel. So what I've done is my Fusion, Elise's Fusion, has got ADAT output. So I send that to channel 3 and 4 digitally, so there's no noise whatsoever. And then everything else is analog that goes through that. And then what I've got going into that goes into my Behringer RX 1602s. So it still gets use, but it's such a letdown. So that's probably there's the 2 worst bits of gear that I've ever owned that I still use today.
Kind of reminds me of a piece of gear that I just grew to really hate. Is probably, I don't know, in the 2000s sometime, I got an M Audio Fast Track Ultra interface, and I was using it back with a really old iMac, maybe one of my earlier MacBooks, and so it was great. It had whatever, I don't remember how many channels, 8 channels or something. and 4 microamps or something like that. So it served all my purposes at the time. I'm like, great, this is going to get me back into recording and spending some time working in the home studio. And I used it for a little while and was, figuring out how to deal with the latency and all that kind of stuff back in those days. But then the thing happened where M-Audio, I don't remember, somebody else will remember, I'm sure, but like they were owned by Avid or got bought by Avid.
Yeah.
I think maybe got bought by Avid. And then M-Audio and like the way the company split was really wonky, and nobody took control over this interface, basically.
Right.
So there were all these users that couldn't use it anymore because the firmware was out of date and wouldn't work with their computers, myself included, and nobody would update it. And there was no support for it even after, not long after its release. And, Avid wouldn't touch it, and whoever else had the other part of the company. I just remember it being a really frustrating thing because, like, I just want to use this piece of gear that I bought. And so finally, it's like, well, somebody on some other operating system might have some use for it. So I put it up on eBay and sold it, and was not unhappy about seeing it go. It was just one of those sources of frustration, no support. That I was like, it's not that I really had any problems with how it worked at the time, but it just became I couldn't use it.
No. Well, there you go. There's our first foray into Sample and Hold, live chat and discussion based on our input from our chat room. I know there was a few others in there. There was one that kind of interested me about MIDI routing, which
I saw that one.
Yeah, maybe that's if maybe next week, if you want to repeat that in the chat room, we can discuss that one, because I've just done a whole bunch of MIDI rerouting and having a lot of fun with it, and just kind of rediscovering how fun it is to set MIDI up on a whole bunch of instruments with different channels and omni modes and local modes and all this kind of stuff. But anyway,
there was one cracker that came through. It was lowest thing you've ever done to be able to buy a piece of gear.
I think
that gigging's man.
Yeah, no, I can't think of anything.
So on the chat room, like I think after I started talking about Avid, the Pro Tools came up several times as being one of the worst things that anybody's ever used.
Yeah. Waves audio plugins, which is kind of ironic. We're kind of about to go and talk about something new from them, but I bought into Waves, and then they upgraded from like version something to version something. I can't remember when it was. It was a few years ago, and they wanted a ridiculous amount of money just for me to upgrade, and I couldn't use my Waves plugins anymore. Which I just screw you. So that's it. I binned a lot. That's it. I've never used them again. But I'm sure we've all got stories like that. Anyway, that was fun. That was interesting. Please, viewers that come back week after week, God knows why you do, but we are glad that you do. If you have any other thoughts, store them up, throw them in the chat room next week, and hopefully we'll have a bit more time to talk about those, because we won't have all these technical issues that we've been having, which hopefully we seem to have, touch wood, managed to resolve. Right, let's go back to some topics. Okay, so everybody get your glasses. You can have a drink now, because Rob is going to mention FM and DX7s, because I can. But this naturally grabbed my attention, and this is somebody has done via GitHub. They've released a browser version of the DX7, and I thought this was really cool, because I don't need a browser version of the DX7, but I tell you what it does do is it breaks down into a very nice way the way that a DX7 operates, and you've got these 6 rows, one for each operator, and you can you've got identical controls for each operator. So you've got operator on and off, and levels, pans, velocity, etc., the frequencies of each of those, and then you can turn them into you can adjust them around to mess around with the coarse and the fine and the detune settings and the envelope rates and levels. The only thing that isn't working at the moment is the keyboard scaling. He says there it's not implemented. And then you've got these general things here. But also, this is interesting, is that you can choose from one of 6 different waveforms for each of the operators. Now, that's something you could not do in a DX7, whether it was a Mark 1 or 2. You could only do that in later versions of the 4 operators, like the TX81Z and the DX11 and the V50s and the SYs beyond that. But you couldn't do that in an original one. So you can actually swap out the standard sine wave and stick in a triangle or a sawtooth or a square or even a sample and hold. And mess around with that, and you can turn aftertouch on and off, and you've also got a little MIDI player. So let's see if we can get it to use the famous patch here. I'm not entirely sure if the audio will come through for this because it's in my browser. It's probably going to be a little bit crackly and poppy. And it comes with a range of MIDI files here that you can just play to audition sounds. And I'm getting a lot of crackling and popping there because I guess we're just drawing the bandwidth because this is browser based. And it's funny because I was getting a lot of questions on various forums where this was being posted saying, oh, well, does this, is this a plugin? And no, it's just a browser thing. Oh, is this a picture? No, it's a browser instrument. And you can swap out, the visual displays, and you've got the full 32 patches that came with the original first voice bank, from brass and strings to, of course, the classic electric piano and the classic bass sounds and the marimbas, etc. And there's demos built in there, and you can just reset everything with a click of a button. You can go in and mess around with the patches yourself, and I think it's just great for a free piece of. It's not even a piece of software. It's just it's a browser thing. You can actually explore a little bit about how Yamaha DX FM synthesis works. Did you got any of you guys play around with this, and did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I did for a little bit. I thought it was it sounded good, and I got to playing with some of my other DX7 software after that.
Yeah,
sitting down with doing some FM programming, but that's a cool thing. They might think about putting it out as a plug-in.
It would be nice. It could. I can't even get my mouth to work. Specifically because it has that interface that is just very simple and straightforward to use. It's kind of Jellinghouse stroke D-Tronics DT7 in its layout, which I thought was quite good. I think I'm trying to remember because I haven't used it for such a long time. Reason Studios have the PX7, which was their version of it as a rack extension, and let me just get the images up because that had a similar kind of visual layout. So yeah, here we go.
So Robbie,
yeah.
Was this? I'm just looking at a question that Aaron has here about composing music with a browser-based synth, and I mean, you could just use it like you would use a synthesizer, but for recording, you need some way to route the audio down into your DAW or something. But what was the purpose of the creation of this browser instrument? Was it as a librarian for hardware DX7, or was it just a project to do? That's it. It's a browser instrument. You can go around and tweak around with a DX7 for free, or what?
Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea because somebody sent me this link and said, "Oh, have you seen this?" And I looked at it, and initially I thought, "Oh, what is this? It just looks like a picture." Oh no, look, I can interact with it. And there is no other information about this. So if I just go to the main GitHub root of that link, it's a 404. So there appears to be no other information about this as to its reason for existing, what it's designed to do. I mean, you can't use it as a programmer because it only has a MIDI input. So you choose your MIDI input from the drop down, and then you can play it. And there is a slight bit of latency in there because it's a browser based instrument. So from a practical point of view, I don't think that it's useful in a musical production sense. But from a kind of like, let's just mess around and see what this does, and maybe it can explain how it works a bit more. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. It's really good if you want to get the hang of programming FM. I think that's a much more logical layout, and it might help you then when you go to your other FM instruments, and you've got that insight then.
Yeah, I mean, what's great about it is that you can go through each of the 32 original presets, which I'm not even going to argue that most of them are not that great. Obviously you've got the classic ones, and there are some nice ones in there, but you can look at them and see how they work, see why they do the thing, and you can just play something and turn operators on and off and just see the effect that each operator has on the sound, the way that it either modulates, or the way the feedback works, and it just gives you it's a really nice kind of visual explanation of how it works, because I think that's what a lot of people struggle with is understanding exactly what does what, because it's not I hate to say it, traditional analog subtractive, which I hate saying that because I hate the fact people use analog subtractive synthesis as a benchmark. It's not. It's just one of a number of different things. But anyway, there you go. That's mmontag.github.io. mmontag.github.io / where are we? /dx7 -synth.js. So it's a Java based thing.
I was going to say I've done a bit of like working. I used to work for a web company, and I wouldn't know where to start creating a DX7 in a browser. That is some skills going on there.
I mean, I'm no programmer whatsoever, but I would imagine that it's easier to code something like this. That is as a digital instrument itself.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of digital, and you're just carrying it over. I don't know. I could be completely wrong about that, but it's just a little bit of fun, and just gets me to get everybody to have a drink. There you go. So let's go and do this one, because this is one that Cryss brought up. This is Waves Kaleidoscopes. So it says, meet your new musical FX partner, a super suite of inspiring phaser, flanger, chorus and tremolo sounds crafted from the best analog modulation studio classics. So there's a whole bunch of these kind of modulation plugins. Spend $50, get one free. Spend $90, get two free. They're regularly priced at $99. It's on sale for $64.99 or $38. Is that $38.99 with a coupon? This is my pet hate with Waves. Pet hate with Waves is that I'm not quite sure what's on offer and how much it is and what have you. But I don't use them anymore. I've sworn right off them. So I'm going to have to go to Cryss to ask him what he thinks these are all about.
Well, yeah, I'm just always interested in effects and modulations, and I said after confessing how many hardware effects that I've had, I'm always looking at plugins too. The main thing for me, I mean, this plugin's deal is that you can run two of the same or different modulations in parallel or series. Which you can already do in your DAW anyway. So to me, the question is, does it sound good? Does it? And these days, people are always thinking about what kind of what particular one does it model if it's not aiming to do something that's new. And so it was a little bit dodgy on trying to find information about. The manual didn't have any information, but a lot of the early big name reviewers were saying, well, this is modeled after. Some of the stuff was like the Eventide instant phaser and instant flanger, phase 90, Boss CE1, which are all great stuff. But it was a little bit difficult this week because I had put this over like, oh, here's some new gear, but trying to find a good sounding example of it proved to be impossible. I couldn't find one. People that really didn't know how to use it or how to use effects, even some producer types. Was kind of disappointed. Like, have you not used a phase shifter before? So I'm jury's kind of out on how it sounds because I never heard a good example of it. Yeah. But if you're looking for something, of course the joke is, Waves is having a sale.
Yeah.
I think that's how you go into it. You go like, well, you're kind of a sucker if you buy it not on sale from them because they're pretty much always going to be having a sale. But for $38 plus whatever, they're also running some other specials right now, like get free plugins and stuff. That if you need something that has, chorus and flange and phaser and tremolo, and all in one, that might be a good deal for you. One of my criticisms of it, though, is just the look of it. I think it looks terrible.
It does, yeah.
It's not intuitive to see what's going on. It's got skeuomorphism can be a little bit difficult because if it's done well, I love it. I love it on looking at a plugin that looks like an old piece of hardware that's high definition and that has some features of that skeuomorphism that helps you see what's a knob and what's not. If you're not using something that looks like Xenology, which is a very clean modern interface, or Generate, that also has a very clean modern interface, you got to get it right, because if you don't, you end up with stuff that Waves has, which would be one of my big criticisms of them, is they have some interesting plugins, but the interfaces of them look terrible. I mean, it's I love those the Roland Cloud Legendary Series soft synths, but again, their interface also looks terrible as well, and it's difficult to use where things are small and it looks a little bit cartoonish, and I feel like that's what this is. It's just too busy for everything that's going on, a lot of wasted space, not a very intuitive layout.
No.
To be honest.
No, that's very true. Ben, do you use Wave stuff at all?
I have got a couple of things, things like the Ultra Maximizer and things like that. Not like modulation effects, not really. I think I'd be interested in trying this if they had a demo that you could try for a while, But I've got to agree with Cryss. It looks, I don't know, it looks like something from the Sega Mega Drive or something. It's an awful design concept for it, but hopefully it redeems itself on the sound, which we're not getting much clues about because we can't seem to find anything. But I'd be interested in trying it. I wouldn't want to pay for it and then discover that I don't like it. But,
well, the thing is with Waves that you probably don't pay that much for it, because say there's always something on sale, and they've always got a big thing going on. They basically just throw this stuff out for $29 a piece most of the time, don't they? So I have to say that I wouldn't even bother looking for this myself, because I've sworn off Waves completely. I can't remember why I got into them. I think somebody was doing a special offer on something. I thought, oh well, I'll just get it and we'll go for it, and then realised that it was that you had to install all this other software to then keep it all up to date and to use it and to authorize it, which I know is kind of commonplace nowadays. But what really bugged me was that the Waves wrapper that was being used as the plugin host wasn't working in all doors, and there was just issues with that. And so I kind of swore off it, and then they sent me this thing saying, oh, we've updated it and it's much better. And I thought, well, okay, I'll give it a chance. And then they wanted money for this update, and it wasn't cheap. And then I paid for it, and then it said, oh, you got to pay to upgrade all your plugins as well. Oh.
Wow.
Right, so fine. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do that.
That would be really upsetting for me as well. I think as far as the sales thing, it's just what I expect. And some of the earliest software I bought was IK Multimedia, so I think I paid like I got Sampletron. I mean, man, years and years ago. And after that, I just was on their email. It's like, oh, okay, I see what you guys are about now. So I would just wait for group buys, and then I would get, 6 things for the sale price of one.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel the same with Waves. At least IK Multimedia, you don't pay again to keep updating things unless you buy a newer revision.
Although I can't let them get completely off the hook, because one thing I really wish they'd change is this thing that you have a finite time to download IK Multimedia libraries for things like Sample Tank.
Yeah.
And so you get like 180 days, which is 6 months, I think. And you get 6 months, and then at the end of that 6 months, if you want to go and download it again because maybe your computer's crashed or you uninstalled it or for whatever reason, or maybe you just didn't get round to downloading it, you have to pay for a voucher that then gets you another 6 months access. Now, they to be fair, they do say that it's up front. They say, we recommend that you download these straight away and then store them, because after 6 months, or 180 days, you'll have to pay to access them again. But why? Nobody else does that.
I was going to say, what could be the reason for that?
I guess it's a copy.
Money?
Yeah, it's either that. Yeah, it is either some kind of sly way of making a bit of cash on the back end, but or maybe it's just something to restrict access so that people. I mean, I can't see what the copy protection thing would be there. I don't get it. It's very odd, and I've mentioned it, and they're aware that people aren't happy. It's not just me. There's a lot of people aren't happy about it, and yet they still persist. So,
when I got my new MacBook, I was like, well, I don't want to search for all that stuff on my old MacBook and do that stuff. So I just sent them an email, and I've bought a fair amount of I have a fair amount of IK Multimedia stuff. Like I said, buy them on group sales and whatnot. So I just said, hey, I've got so much of your stuff. I'm a big user of it. My last computer is having problems, which it was, and I said, I've got a new computer. I've heard that sometimes you'll just give the token without having to pay for it. Would you guys be willing to do that? And they did, and so I was able to have another 180 days or whatever it was to re-download all my stuff onto the new computer with whatever their latest sound libraries and whatnot are.
Yeah.
So that didn't tend to turn out to be a problem, and it may be just some sort of deterrent because I'm just one of their regular users, and they allowed me to have it.
Yeah, I mean, I have multiple external hard drives where I store. So all my sample libraries are on one hard drive, and then I also have a backup of downloads on another external hard drive. So I kind of cover my arse on both sides. So I have the installed libraries on one drive and the installers, if you will, on the other. So doesn't really affect me because I will download everything straight away. I will save it. I will store it and back it up and make sure that if all hell broke loose that I've got I can recover. But it just seems a kind of a very archaic way of doing things.
Yeah, it's funny how some of these companies, in what areas they just remain very archaic, and certainly Waves is there, and I've never had any Waves plugins until the last couple of weeks, and so I've waited for a sale, and there's some stuff that I wanted to try and to have, and some of the stuff that I got, the stuff that I really wanted, I've been very impressed with. So a few of the other plugins I didn't really care for, but the things that I wanted, I've been very impressed with as far as the sound quality. But when you pull them up, it looks like it belongs back in the very first days of my plugin buying back in Sample Take 2 Sample Take 2 and stuff like that, where it's low resolution, cartoony. 2020, we can do things a little bit better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you go. That's Waves and Kaleidoscope, and that's available now at a reduced price, as a lot of things at Waves are. That's gone a bit skew. Right, so let's do this one. We've got a couple of things we'll just squeeze in before we finish the show. This one was interesting. Cryss made me aware of this one. AudioSwift. They have come up with a piece of software that allows you to transform your trackpad, whether it's a trackpad on a MacBook or a trackpad, separate trackpad controller for an iMac, and use it as a controller. So, for example, you can have 3 sliders, kind of like an invisible division on your trackpad here, and then set it to various MIDI controls, so you can slide between the different performances on, say, for example, because they are using Spitfire's BBC SO here, tremolo, pizzicato, spiccato, and long. So as you slide up, you go through these different articulations. And it seems like a really cool thing to do, but also you can divide into banks, and so you can have almost like pads, if you will. And it just kind of, I'm going to get this because one thing I've been looking for is some way to switch between the different articulations in a very smooth way in BBC SO. And this at the moment, I believe, is on offer. And it's a lot cheaper than the hardware stuff that you see the guys at Spitfire use. And the name of the tool escapes me. It's this kind of little block thing that you can buy the different things and they all kind of stick together and work. It's very cool. But yeah, this looks really nice. And I'm just going. They also have options for Final Cut Pro and Lightroom as well. So it's kind of like it's a multi thing. It's almost like a version of what Cryss has. The name again escapes me.
Sensor Morph.
That's it, Sensor Morph. But just making use of your own trackpad. So did either of you get a chance to use this at all, or are you just like me, just waiting to buy it?
I think I'll get it. Yeah, I think I'll get that because one of the things that I was doing when I was using the Spitfire stuff was I was having to do a different track for the different articulations and ended up like grinding my computer to a halt.
Yeah.
So just being able to switch like the articulation in it, to suit the part you're playing on the fly would be amazing, and it's well worth the money for that.
Yeah, definitely. It's £24 at the moment. That's 24 UK, which includes the VAT. So it's just like a no-brainer really to go for this. And Cryss, you're the one that brought this to our attention. Yeah. So if you spend your £24 or dollars or whatever, is that just for this MIDI version, and then the Final Cut Pro stuff is another cost, or is it just one cost, one price for all of them?
As far as I know, it's just the one cost, and so it's on sale right now. So I got it for, I just looked it up, $16.80. So nice. It's very inexpensive, and as we've seen, so conversation that we've had in the past was, talking about Spitfire stuff in the fancy controllers that Christian Henson was using. I don't remember the name of them, but they're very clever little modular, faders and knobs and things that you can put together. I'm like, oh, I'd like something like that. And then you find out that they're hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
So what else can you do? And so this did kind of strike me as having a similar vibe in a way, a much more simple but a similar vibe to the Morph. And for under $17 on sale, it was I was like, okay, I'm going to check this out. So I haven't said this week has been so busy, I haven't had any time to sit and play with it too much, but it was one of the things that I wanted to use with some of the software, particularly Spitfire, BBC, and Labs, because you could do it in automation in your DAW, but Native Yes says Henson uses palette gear.
That's it. Yep, that's the name.
Yeah, thank you. But what appeals to me is that I don't do a lot of MIDI draw. Like, I try to play the parts. I'm not a great keyboardist, but I try to practice them until I get it close enough that I can just do some, at most, gentle quantizing. But a lot of the times I will just fix a couple things that are mishit notes or whatever. But what this, I think, really adds to it is that if you're doing some strings or whatever it is that you need articulations for, that being able to do it in the moment and have the audio feedback as you're playing the part, I think can make a really big difference in how expressive and how you play the part as well, rather than doing it in your DAW later.
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
And here's a solution that doesn't cost hundreds of dollars, that's very inexpensive.
Well, in fact...
And using... Yeah, go ahead.
If you use the coupon code GoldenFrog30, it's £16.80, or as you say, $16. So it really is a no-brainer, I think. And
one of the things that I haven't looked into yet and figured out is, so I have my MacBook which has the giant trackpad on it, and then I also have one of the Apple trackpads that are separate, which I don't like these as much as I like the trackpads on the MacBooks. I don't know why they're any different, but the trackpads on the MacBooks are better. But what I try to find out is they talk about because when you use your trackpad for these articulations and you have the 3 lanes and stuff, well, you're going to lose your trackpad. So how do you get out of it? And I think they have some ways around that, either like a hotkey to get you out of it, or what I want to find out is if I can assign 2 trackpads so that my MacBook trackpad remains my pointer, and then my Bluetooth trackpad becomes that articulation controller. And so if in some way I can do that, that would be even greater. I just have to spend the time to do it, and I haven't had time yet.
I was going to ask about that because I didn't want to seem stupid, but if I used to have a trackpad with me iMac, but I also had a mouse as well because I could never quite get the hang of it as you can on the thingy. So when you're using it as a touch surface, obviously all the functionality is going to go from it being a pointing device, isn't it? So how do you initialize it to use it as one thing or the other? Does that interrupt your flow? Is it intuitive or?
Yeah, so let me find where I put all that stuff here. So maybe I can check it out right now.
Yeah, I mean,
where'd it go?
While you're looking for that, I mean, it's a valid point as to whether it hogs, how you can wrest control from it. I mean, I must say that the track. I've got a trackpad for my iMac, and once you go trackpad, you never go back. It's just using a mouse now just feels really weird to me. However, I did keep my Magic Mouse too, and it just sits in the drawer somewhere. So that might be a reason to keep that out and have that connected, because you can have both connected at the same time, and then just have it around for when I'm using this. So it's or like you say, it would be interesting to see if it can because you can have 2 trackpads connected. Can you assign one to your system and one to your AudioSwift?
So just looking at the interface here, it shows me a picture of my trackpad that's actually here divided up into 10 zones.
Right.
Wow.
Right now, and I can see where both of my fingers are on the trackpad, and it's tracking both trackpads right now. In the menu, it says choose how to turn AudioSwift on. 4 fingers tap, 5 fingers tap. Hotkey, and you can set the hotkey, enable it to run automatically. So there's a number of different settings, and then how to set it up. It has primary on port 1, Logic Pro, and then you can set to other ones. How you trigger things, like what thing you're gonna use, if you're gonna use MPE mode. Slider sensitivity, stuff relative to center or not. I'll have to play with it a bit and set it up, and maybe try it with labs or something and see how it works. But it at least from the little that I saw about it, and it's got a lot of potential to be a very inexpensive way to use more of your hardware you already have.
I mean, I'm so enamored with the trackpad. You know, when I'm using Logic, you know, having the ability to pinch zoom and, you know, scroll and do all of these wonderful things that you can with that touch paradigm. I would miss it if I had to then go to a mouse to control Logic and use this to control the instrument.
Yeah.
So I'd have to kind of work out whether that was, because the one thing I don't like about the Magic Mouse is that touch. You know, yes, it's cool that you can swipe your finger across the top of the mouse and it works in a, you know, trackpad-y way, but it's not ideal. It's really it's great for, you know, just scrolling, but that's about it. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Aaron in the chat room has just he's just said that he really likes the trackpad and he wished there was an equivalent for PC. I've used my Magic Mouse on a PC, and there was a third-party driver for it, so it wasn't an Apple driver, but it was a third-party driver that allowed me to use the touch surface to do, you know, the mouse wheel scroll and that kind of thing. It was a while ago, so maybe there's something third-party out there that allows you to use a trackpad on a PC. It might just work. I don't know. It would probably, though, need a specific driver, but I'm sure someone somewhere has done something like that. And I've just realised, you know, that I've got Cryss on screen when I'm talking. Not that anybody really wants to see my face. The thing is, I can see both Cryss and myself and you, and I see me. I'm thinking, oh, well, that's going out to the feed, and it's not. It's just Cryss, you know, smiling, looking gorgeous, and this voice rattling on in the background.
Doing the best ventriloquism ever.
What'd you say?
Cryss doing the best ventriloquism ever.
or worst. Yeah, because then it brings up this whole, you know, thing about touchscreens as well. You know, I'm not a big fan. I think touchscreens on mobile devices is fine, but on a computer, I mean, I sit here at my computer and I see finger marks where I've maybe just you know, grabbed it to tilt it a little bit, and I just so I can't imagine finger marks all over my my computer screen. I think it would infuriate me. But
yeah, and one of the things about trackpads, which you could do for a touchscreen as well, that makes them so much better than a mouse, is the multi-finger gestures really speed up workflow. And so, being able to do 3 or 4 finger swipes or pinches and all that kind of stuff, like I'm not having to go all over the screen anymore with a mouse or touching things.
I mean, that thing with, where you, with the trackpad, you 4-finger swipe up and it shows all open windows and all desktops that you've got, and then you can just, place things onto different desktops and swipe between them so easily. It's just, I could not live without that now, The Windows equivalent of that. I mean, I use a Windows machine right here. I've got a Windows 10 machine. The Windows equivalent of that is just nowhere near as good. So there you go. But we're not going to go down that road.
I know, I'm not getting into that.
We're not going to get involved in Windows versus Mac debates because they're completely pointless. Because everybody knows that Macs are best.
And the best thing is that both companies do well and are competition for one another. That's where we as the consumers, whether we're Apple or PC or Google or whoever, Android do the best.
Yeah, very true. Anyway, so that's AudioSwift. £24, $24, but with a coupon, you can get it down to 16. And it just, I mean, I'm interested to see, because I don't use Final Cut Pro or Lightroom. I use other tools for that stuff, so it would be limited. But it's interesting to see, and I'm sure that they might add other tools at a later date. So there you go. Finally, just wanted to get this one out there because it deserves to be promoted. Because Michelle Moog Kosa does fantastic work at the Bob Moog Foundation, and every year they do a raffle. And this year is a quite exceptional raffle because it's a Trifecta raffle. It's the 2020 Moog Trifecta raffle, where 3 winners will be picked. And I think the way I understand it is that the Moog Source is the top prize, and then the Moog Prodigy is the second prize, and then the third prize is a Moog Rogue. And you can get all the information at the moogfoundation.org website, and there's some demonstration videos. But yeah, first prize is the Moog Source, and I just want that so I can do the Blue Monday stuff. That's all I ever want that for. And then you've got the Moog Prodigy, which again I wouldn't mind as a Howard Jones fan, because he was a big user. Didn't he have a Moog Prodigy with guitar strap fitted? So it wasn't a keytar as such, but he was back in his early days. I'm sure it was a Moog Prodigy he had slung over his shoulders, but they look in immaculate condition. They've been properly restored, and I mean, this Prodigy has even bine updated with a Synth MST MIDI to CV converter as well. So that gives you a whole bunch of connectivity, CV, MIDI, USB. So that's a real bonus as well. A lovely little thing.
How much are the tickets for that then?
So I'll come to that in just a moment. So finally, you've got the Moog Rogue, which I love.
Got my card out now.
Yeah, the Moog Rogue, which is a wonderful thing to say, but it's also a lovely little keyboard, and that's the third prize. So the raffle tickets are available now until September 28th, or when all tickets have been sold. Pardon me, I'm just going to scroll right up to the top here. So tickets are $25 each, or $5 for 100, $12 for 200, and $35 for 500. So obviously the more tickets you buy, the less price per ticket that you pay. It's an international raffle, so it doesn't matter where you're from, and there are only 4,500 tickets available. Once all 4,500 tickets have been sold, if that is before the 28th of September, then that's it. You will not be able to buy a ticket. So the key here is to get in quick. And even if you don't win, you are donating money to an extremely worthy cause, because Michelle runs the Bob Moog Foundation, which includes things such as the Bob Moog Foundation Archives, which of course is an incredibly important archive to keep going. There's the Moogseum, which is an actual physical museum that you can go and visit. And then there's Dr. Bob's Sound School, which goes around young people's schools around the US, I believe. I don't think they've gone beyond. And they promote electronic music and introduce young people to it as well. So they're three really worthwhile projects that the Bob Moog Foundation carry out. And they're a great organisation doing great things. And so this is the annual raffle. Normally it's just one synth. Well, now you've got a chance to win one of three incredibly well restored and beautiful vintage synthesizers. Which one? Go on, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Cryss. Which, if you could win one of those, which would you have? It can only be one. Which would you
Definitely
have?
the Source.
The Source, yeah. I think, me too. What about you, Ben? What would your preference be?
Well, I think it'd have to be the Source as well. Yeah. I think.
Sorry, he couldn't go rogue on us.
Yeah, no, I think that's. Although, I mean, looking at it, I don't know whether. I mean, obviously these things have been serviced and at a very high level, and are going to be completely fully functional, almost box fresh new. But that kind of membraney surface, knowing what I know about membrane surfaces, I'm not entirely sure I'd like to be too keen on using that. But the bottom line is that it sounds incredible. And what was it, the bass that was done on Blue Monday with that?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, so it's a lovely instrument to have. So there you go. That is the Bob Moog Foundation annual raffle, this time with 3 prizes: a Source, a Prodigy, and a Rogue. As first, second, and third prizes. Go to the moogfoundation.org website for more information. That, gentlemen, brings us to the end of the show. We've overrun slightly, but I've kind of let that happen because we had a technical issue. But I think, without wanting to jinx it all, we've kind of fixed it. Apart from a few little things that I'm noticing in terms of layout and stuff, I think we managed to save the day, and I think we'll carry on moving forward in that direction. So there you go. So usual, go around the room. Ben, what you got planned for the coming week?
It's this studio move is taking a lot longer than than I hoped, and I'm just in the middle of that. I can't really, when we're talking about products and that, I can't really try them properly because everything's in bits everywhere. So I'm having to make do with what I can view in videos and that. So hopefully I'll be getting somewhere near next weekend to contribute a bit more. But it's just a massive job.
Yeah.
I've had loads of studio rejigs, but a studio move is, even though it's only downstairs, it's still a nightmare. But
Cool.
yeah.
Excellent stuff. Glad to hear it. Well, good luck with that and keep us informed. Cryss, anything exciting on your horizon?
Yeah, sent the Prophet off yesterday. My buddy was real happy about the sounds on there. So, but it's also kind of nice because I can say, well, that one's done. I got some video to edit and a song to finish editing, but the recorded parts are done just as a demo for the Polyvision sound set. But yeah, I mean, other than a little of that, I'm just looking forward to having a little bit of a break. I'll probably be doing some patch design this week as well when I'm feeling up to it. But I think today and tomorrow, man, I just need to crash. So I'm looking forward to that.
It's always a way after a long weekend because you seem to work extra hard, don't you, to make up for that missing day. So cool. Excellent stuff. Glad to hear it.
What about you, Robbie?
So something exciting for me anyway is happening I believe Tuesday. So keep an eye on the ProSynth Network page because I will be posting links. It's another podcast, hopefully this Tuesday, and it's a real doozy. It's one for me. I think that I've been indulged now, but I won't say what it's about. But maybe you can guess. But it's a really good one. Really enjoyed making it, and I actually got to because I had to write some little pieces of music as musical interludes, and I haven't played or written much music at all in recent years, and I haven't used the DX5 in anger, and so I've kind of given it away slightly here, but I actually used my DX5 to come up with these musical segues. It was just like falling in love with your wife all over again. It was just, it's so nice when you, because I am not a player. I can't just sit at the keyboard and go, I'm not a Michael Whalen or anything like that. I just cannot do it. But when I piece something together and then play it back as if it was played, it's like, oh God, it sounds good with all the dynamics and everything in there. So I was really pleased just to get that in there. So that's coming up. So there'll be lots of promo to do with that. Flogging myself and whoring myself around the place, which is should be fun. And that's about it. And then just day job stuff. And I've been rewiring. So I want to have a DX MIDI rig. So everything is now MIDI together, independent of anything else. So it's not connected to a DAW or anything. It's just the QX3 is running the whole show. And I did all of that yesterday, and save for a few scratchy head moments where I'd forgotten about, turning various MIDI settings on and off. It all works, and it works beautifully. And I'm even making use of the wireless MIDI in there as well, which is fantastic because it's really helped me spread that QX3 capability around the studio without having to go through doors or anything, which is really nice. So I should be playing around with that more because next year I hope to take that DX rig out to various shows and let people play around and have some fun.
Oh, very good.
There you go. So that's me for the week. Thank you guys for your company as always. It's a great pleasure. Thank you to everyone that's in the chat room who has stuck through us to the bitter end and is still there now. And you came back even after we had technical issues, and that's really pleasing to see. Thanks also for your interaction, which is just brilliant. So thank you very much for that. We will see you same time, same place next week. When do we have our next guest on, Cryss, who's kind of become our guest booker?
Let me look at the schedule here. So next week we will have Jamie Borden on.
Excellent, Jamie.
Jamie.
Do we have
then a
somebody
couple
else?
weeks later we'll be having the wonderful Rands on.
Oh yeah,
with
Rand
us.
Adamson. Excellent. So we now can say that we've all been on each other's shows, which is all cool. So it's good to get Rands on. How he's going to do that is going to be beyond me, because it's, I don't know what time, it's stupid o'clock in Australia, in Perth at the moment, which is, I think he's on the West Coast, isn't he?
He's going to be starting at 3 a.m. with us. So
That's dedication. That is
I
absolute
said
dedication.
we really appreciate the sacrifice, and but it'll be great having him on. He's a great guy.
We'll keep him awake. Don't worry.
There's no way we're returning the favour, though. We won't be getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Nope. That's a big nope. Actually, it might be worth mentioning here. So we want to obviously broaden our number of guests, and we want to not necessarily, not have the great people that we have had on again, because we like the people that we've had, and we'll have them as often as we can. However, we'd like to get you guys involved. The public, the people that are watching. If you feel like you might want to be a guest on this show, if you feel like you've got something you can offer in terms of music technology or whatever, let us know. Drop us a line. You can do it via ProSynth Network. Ping us on Facebook or wherever, and just let us know, and tell us who you are, why you want to be on the show, why you think you'd make a great guest. You don't have to be anybody special or famous or in the industry. If you're just an audience member, we'd love to have you on and have a chat with you and find out a little bit more about our public. So ping us, let us know, and we'll try and book more guests in as technology allows. Anyway, that's great. Thanks ever so much, guys and girls, and everyone else in between. It's been wonderful. We will see you same time, same place next week. Until then, I was going to cut to this still shot, but I've just got to rearrange it, so I'm filling, which is very good, and I'll keep talking until I've done that. And now we're good to go. Goodbye, everyone.
Please hit like.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell. So you get reminded. But thanks ever so much, and have a safe week. We'll see you next Sunday. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.